The history of Irish research is one that is at times linked to our nearest neighbour. But the Dublin Institute was one that allowed Ireland to emerge as a leading international research institute in its own right. We have populated that with both Irish people and with internationally renowned people. It has been an exemplar of the way that institutes deal with other institutes around the world. It puts Dublin, it puts the Institute at the very heart of international research.
We use physics to understand the whole universe, how it works. We don't do laboratory experiments, but we use the universe, the cosmos, as our laboratory. So we both look downwards to work out in geophysics what's happening under the Earth, and we look up to see what's happening in the furthest reaches of the universe.
Even though we know basically the fundamentals of how the Earth works, we don't know the details. We know how ocean crust is created and then consumed, but we don't know how the continents are formed. We don't know why they're so deep they are in some places and so thin they are in other places. And in order to understand the Earth we live on, and it is the Earth we live on, we have to use these methods of physics to get better understanding of the processes that are involved. And I'm a specialist though in another science where I use electromagnetic waves, the waves you're seeing me by, except at very low frequency, and they're like radar but even much lower than radar. And so I can use these waves that propagate into the Earth, and I can see down, the deepest I've seen is 1,200 kilometers. My predecessor, Brian Jacob, he was one of the principal drivers behind seismic studies in the offshore, the Atlantic offshore of Ireland in the mid-80s. And as a direct consequence of Brian's work, we are in Ireland can now lay claim to a landmass that is 10 times the above sea area of Ireland, because we can show that continental velocity rocks extend way out into the Atlantic Ocean.
This records earthquakes from around the world on a 24/7 basis, 365 days of the year. And that data is then made available to international seismological agencies that want to use it for research. We use it for our own research and for our PhD students and for our postdocs as well. But in order to, if you like, underpin the kind of work we do, we have an outreach program which explains to the ordinary person in the street the kind of work that we actually do in the Institute. And so we have developed the Seismology in School Seismolíocht program. And that's been extremely successful in bringing to the notice of students and teachers, especially around the country in both primary and secondary schools, what the whole science of seismology is about and what a dynamic place the Earth's planet is. So basically the school involved in the project would have its own seismometer, and in the Institute we act as consultants to the school in relation to promoting seismology. And so when an earthquake occurs anywhere around the world, I get notified from an international agency in Potsdam University and pass on the details of that earthquake to the school. And once the teacher receives that, well, then a lesson starts in relation to where did the earthquake occur? Let's have a look on the map to see where that is in the world. What was the magnitude of the earthquake? How many people were killed in this earthquake? Have earthquakes happened there before? And so we encourage students to write a small report as an essay for the school, or indeed a small report and a picture for a local newspaper, just to highlight their involvement in the science.
One can use MT to image from tens of meters below the surface down to 300 kilometers below the surface and deeper. I guess the common theme running between all of those three renewable energy or sustainable energy projects is that we're using magnetotellurics to map the depth, extent and the properties of rocks in the subsurface. And these are rocks that might provide the basis for geological storage of carbon in one case, in another case an opportunity for deriving geothermal energy from the rocks, and in the third case the opportunity for providing storage reservoirs for compressed air energy storage.
It is a difficult time in Ireland's history, but no more difficult than it was when this institute first came into being. And we hope that over the next few years, the institute will help in bringing forward new ideas, new research, which will again continue to put Ireland at the very forefront of research.